have here a broken Sony digital Mavica. So for those unfamiliar, although these are super popular as sort of neat retro cameras lately, these are digital cameras that Sony made in the late 90s to the early 2000s that used floppy disks. So I think the floppy disk drive is on the side here. You insert a floppy disk and store your digital photos. Now that sounds absurd in today's world, but this had an advantage back then because flash memory was crazy expensive. And if you got a flash memory card, it would probably either be compact flash or MMC, which is the predecessor to SD. Maybe you'd have 2 meg, maybe 4, maybe 8. And it would cost you hundreds of dollars if you wanted to get like 8 or, God, 16. And floppy disks were everywhere. They were affordable, they were reusable. Like if you had a computer, you were already using floppy disks. Why not use it in your camera? So the idea made sense because you could take lots of photos and you didn't have to buy expensive memory. And the other thing about these is they have really nice sensors. Like for early digital cameras, they take great pictures. Now this one is the MVC-FD51 and it's a really basic model. Pretty low resolution, you know, no automatic lens cap or anything like that. And I got it when I got some other working Mavicas and this one doesn't. So let me show you what it does do. Alright, so first I need to put a battery in this. So open this up. And of course the batteries, the original batteries for these are all since long dead. They use the Sony Lithium, which is a lithium-based battery that had some smarts in it. You know, kind of like an early battery DRM. So what I have is I have these newer replacements and they work great. They're off Amazon. The only problem is the actual outer dimensions of this battery are, let's stop doing that, are slightly larger than the original. So I put this little rope around here because see it's stiff. Normally there's a spring inside here that when you pull this tab will release the battery, but not with these. So this is my release tab here. Looks stupid, but it works. Now, listen to the symphony of problems. The camera part works, but the floppy drive is completely borked. So let's take this apart and see if it's fixable or if I'll just end up with a pile of screws and components I can't put back together. And there we go. That was a little fiddly to remove. It felt like something was catching, and I think it was this sensor here. But really it's just 2 screws, 1 screw, and then 2 screws on top. And they all have little arrows to tell you which ones to take out, which is nice. So now we have the front assembly, which has the battery holder, the flash, which I assume this big capacitor is for. This looks like the main board, and behind it should be the floppy drive. So we have to pull this part out next. Oh boy, this smells incredibly musty inside. There we go. I've peeled yet another layer. So I disconnected the ground that was going to this board here to give myself a little bit more movement. And then 2 screws that you can see from the underside here that go into this plastic here. And then it can just peel out. So I'll see if I can completely separate this drive because this is our concern. Haha, separated floppy drive. Okay, working backwards to explain what I did. There are 2 ribbon cables, this one and this one. The brown one, you just pull out, see it's got this little piece of plastic, you can put some pliers and gently pull it out, it's just friction held in. This one, however, has one of these clamp style connectors, so you just pull up this little brown cover here like that, and then it just comes out. So now I've separated all the camera electronics. Oh, and some screws holding the board in and holding the sensor on. Now we have the bad floppy drive. Further disassembly has us remove this from the mounting plate. It's got a little clear plastic on the back there for protection. To remove 3 screws, not 4, 3. This screw hole here is not used, and that one was suspiciously loose. So now we just need to get the cover off. And that appears to be the same as every other floppy drive I've ever opened. It's just grab a little metal spudger and you can unclip this cover. It's got 4 little bumps that hold it on, and this top cover should come off. 5, not 4, there's one on the back. You also want to get this ribbon cable out of the way. All right, let's see. Got a sacrificial, Sony branded floppy. Oh. Won't even go in. Well, that's weird. It was already partially loaded in. Now, I know that that wasn't the problem, because when I originally tested this, I did put a floppy disk in and it wouldn't read. So this does need some sort of repair. At the very least, I'm going to lubricate the head travel portion and clean the heads and see what that does. But yeah, it looks like it was partially jammed in. Get some rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip and just sort of get in here, clean the heads. Not sure how well that's coming off on the video here. Just gently get in there. No, not really seeing anything come off there. Next, let's check the lubrication of the head motor. Oh! It's bent up. Hold on. Look at that. It's actually bent up. I think it's supposed to hit the middle of that plate, which has a little bearing in it, that little plastic black thing. And it's pushed up. Okay, well, it was pretty gummy in there. It was covered in black crap, and this seemed to really easily skip over the gears. So I cleaned it with some rubbing alcohol, put some lithium grease in there, and this actually seems to bite on the gears better, so I don't want to slide it back and forth because that's probably damaging to the plastic piece here that rides on these gears. But let's see. Let's see if this actually gets it working. There. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, slight adjustment to this. Now let's pop this floppy disk in. See what it does. You have a disk. Why are you not? Is that a screw underneath? That is a screw underneath. Huh. Why is it not? It's not seeing the disk. That's weird though. When I powered it on and off, it saw the disk. So if I take the disk out, it doesn't seem to change. Okay, well, it's saying no file. Go to camera. Now where's my shutter button? That's a good sign. No, it's not. Watching this video again, that's the sound a floppy drive makes when it's dealing with bad sectors. That's a bad sound. So now let's go to play. Yeah, see, that's what I was getting before. It tries to read, but can't. Let me just grab another disc for the hell of it. Okay, this disc I have for sure used in my other Mavicas. So let's power it on. It should be formatted. No file, yeah. So let's just format this for the heck of it here. Where's menu? I see. Yeah, this is a much simpler version than the one that I have. And this is a much simpler Mavica than the other ones that I have. Okay, so now let's go to camera. And once that's loaded, we'll take a picture. Did that not take a picture? Oh, this is one of those old school ones. So this is using like an NTSC sensor. So you can determine if you want to do a field or a frame, because I think it's using like an interlaced style sensor, I guess. Let's do fine. So why won't you let me do anything? Oh. I'm an idiot. I was only pushing down to focus. Yeah, that sounded like it didn't do much. On the other Mavicas, it takes quite a while to write the floppy, so I don't think that this is going to work. See, it just stops. Wait, what? What? That worked? Are these just really small files? Where's the sensor here? Let's put something in front of it. Let's put some green in front of it. Take a green picture. And we'll take the green away. And we'll switch to play. What? Oh, I see. You have to go up there to go through them. Okay, let's try this on the computer. There we go. We've got files. Hey, maybe this did fix it? I mean, those are horrible photos, but... You know what? I might put this back together then. It could just be that that other floppy was bad. These things are kind of very picky, and honestly, floppy disks are also pretty finicky. There we go. On our way to having this thing back together. The trick to remembering where the screws are is to reassemble it close enough to disassembly that it hasn't left your memory. So this is quite different from my other Mavicas. It's a much earlier specimen, and the sensor on this is a lot more primitive. This is 640 by 480, and yeah, the files are tiny, 25 kilobyte JPEGs. So you could fit a ton on a floppy disk. That's really nice. Some of the other ones I have on the highest quality setting, you can fit maybe 3 photos per disk. So when I go out with them, I just carry a satchel full of floppies. Just fill your pockets, wear cargo shorts, and fill your shorts full of floppies. It's insane. So in this era of, and that's on fine mode, that's on the highest quality setting. In this era of digital cameras, a floppy disk actually made a lot of sense. Not just because they're cheap and plentiful, but because storage space is minimal. Like when I take a photo, let's see here. Like it's mostly the CPU doing all the calculations, and then writing to the disk is real fast. So I'll take some photos with this, and then I want to show you a much better Mavica. Before I do that, let's fix the macro switch. When I put this back together mechanically, I had it in macro mode, and I think the switch got slid, so now it's not working. Everything's out of focus, it's stuck in macro mode. So this is the actual macro control on the sensor, and the little slider on the front, where are you? See, it moves that. So I just have to align that key with that. Okay, that's better. The macro switch is working. Onward. If you are looking for that late 90s, very, very early digital camera crunch, which I would say this leans on the bad side of it. Yeah, look at these photos. White balance, as far as I can tell, no white balance. So the daylight photos seem to be very blue, and then indoor lighting seems to be more balanced for indoor lighting. Let's see, is There's got to be like a camera menu. Is there a white balance on here? No, this is incredibly basic. Picture effect. Really? You've got these stupid art things in there? Black and white could be useful because you can get artifacting on the color. But the rest of those, really? No, come on, that's just a gimmick. You can do that on the computer afterwards. It's a digital photo. I'm going to also take the same photos with my other Mavicas. Or maybe I'll just jump right to the top of the line one that I have. This is the FD95. This thing has a massive zoom lens. It has a, I think, 1024 by 768 sensor, and it'll interpolate 1280 by 1024 to give you 2.1 megapixels. It'll take really bad movies, as these all did. Feels fantastic in the hand, weighs a ton, but I'll show you the picture quality difference between this one and this one. Now, obviously, there's a time difference as well. I think this was into the 2000s. This was a few years earlier. And back then, progress for this kind of technology was rapidly evolving. But just to show you the difference, this thing I actually really like. When you look at photos it takes, I mean, other than, you know, less post-processing, you can see a bit of that digital crunch, best way to describe it, the lower resolution, but otherwise they're perfectly fine photos. It has a great sensor. It takes great photos. Whereas this is more what I remember on sort of early digital cameras. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes you want to play around with early stuff like that. I forgot one important thing. This has a CR2025 coin cell battery in it for the clock. Oh! Okay, let's get some dollar store batteries in there. They started double sealing them. So you have to like cut away. I think this is related to, I was reading that they put like a coating that tastes bad on these so kids don't swallow them. But I guess that means they have to seal them with plastic on the backside, which is annoying for me. Extra work. There, finally. New battery. So, clock set. That hasn't popped up on me before. Set the date. So I guess I hit OK. All right, let's take the big battery out and see how that does. Now I'll show you the advantage of using this silly little string thing here, is that I can just lift the battery out. The battery that fits way too tightly in there. First time I tried putting one of these batteries in, I had to like pry it out. It was a big mess, so. This looks silly, but it works. Heck yeah. Also, I need to clarify an explanation when I couldn't get it to recognize when I put a disc in. It uses a switch in the cover door to determine whether it needs to check if there's a change in the disk state. Simple? Simple. Because I'm assuming the floppy drive that they had available for this was similar to the kind in a computer where you have to tell it to go and look. Right? Windows doesn't detect when you put a floppy in the old drives, or DOS at the time, or whatever. It wasn't constantly polling. There was no switch inside. You had to tell it to look, and then the drive would say, oh, there's a disk or not. So this is similar. I was thinking of the way this one is. I think it must have like a switch or something when the floppy goes in to tell it, because if you pop a disk in this, it'll just know right away. Magic. So one thing I noticed with this, and other people probably already knew, but if you don't, hey, this could be interesting. In all the specs, this is a fixed focus camera. You have distance and macro. But this is a mechanical slider. It's actually adjusting the lens or whatever distance inside there. It's not just a switch. So right now, if we look, I have it on macro. And you have a nice clean text because I'm real close up, right? If I slide it away, it's blurry. But as I pull away, it's still kind of blurry, right? And if I go to macro, it's also blurry. But if I slide it right into the middle, we get actual crisp picture. So while this is on paper fixed focus, if you want to take intermediate shots, you can just kind of play with the slider a little bit to get exactly what you need. Anyway, I'll leave you with some comparison photos, and yeah, thanks for watching.